Hey, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the award-winning Legends of Sport podcast. I'm your host, Andy Bernstein. This year marks the 75th anniversary of the breaking of the color barrier in the NBA by the NBA pioneers, Chuck Cooper, Earl Lloyd, and Nat Sweetwater Clifton. Moving forward, every February 1st will be acknowledged throughout the league as NBA Pioneers Day. I'm thrilled to have Chuck Cooper's son, Chuck Cooper III, on this week's episode. Chuck was the first African-American player to be drafted into the NBA when the Boston Celtics chose him as the 13th pick in the 1950 draft. Chuck came out of Pittsburgh and Duquesne University and helped turn the Celtics around into a winning franchise. As we all know, it was a difficult time in America, but Chuck let his game do his talking and set the table for more integration into the NBA. Following his retirement from the league, Chuck led the way in business and community service in his native Pittsburgh. His son is carrying on his father's legacy with the Chuck Cooper Foundation, a wonderful organization based in Pittsburgh. So great to meet Chuck recently and chat with him on this week's episode. So enjoy this conversation with Chuck Cooper III, and as always, I'll see you on the backside. I want to welcome Chuck Cooper III to the Legends of Sport podcast. What a treat, man, to have you on the podcast, Chuck. Are you calling in from Pittsburgh? Is that home base for you?
Calling in from the great city of Pittsburgh, one-time city champions. We got to get that back. But hey, Andy, it's an honor and a pleasure to be on with you, sir.
Yeah, man. I heard your baseball team is on the way back now. You got that great pitcher, and I guess some hitter just signed with you guys or something. I don't know.
Well,
That's awesome.
you got every 4 or 5 games, you got a great pitcher to look at. That's for sure. We're hoping the Pirates could come back. I grew up a huge Pirate fan, going to games with my dad, so we're pulling for the comeback for sure.
That's beautiful, man. I love Pittsburgh. I saw a couple of Bruce Springsteen shows there. I love how the baseball stadium and the football stadium are right next to each other with a casino in the middle. So you're talking about language.
Hey, well, next time you come back, you can let me know.
Of course, man. So, Chuck, our paths crossed recently. You and I were at the Great Legends of Basketball Awards during All-Star Weekend in L.A. a little while ago, where they honored your dad, Chuck Cooper, Earl Lloyd, and Nat Sweetwater Clifton, honored as the NBA pioneers, 75th anniversary of breaking the color barrier in the NBA. I was there in 2019 when your dad was inducted into Naismith Basketball Hall of Fame, and you had a great speech. I think it was a recorded speech, but you said that your dad was held to a higher standard, right?
100%.
So let's jump into that, okay? Let's go back 75 years ago. Happened to be my birthday, by the way, April 25th, 1950.
Wow, okay.
Although it was 8 years before I was born. Put yourself in your dad's shoes on draft day, and what was that like for him? I mean, I'm sure you guys had talked about it, but it was such a benchmark watershed moment in sports and in American history.
Well, first of all, he had no reason to think that he would be drafted, right?
Mm-hmm.
There was no precedent.
Yeah.
And he actually originally had started out playing with the Harlem Globetrotters.
Oh, that's right.
And Nat Clifton were teammates.
Mm-hmm.
And Abe Saperstein, the owner of the Globetrotters, had just started his World Series of college basketball, which was the Globetrotters playing against the white college all-stars.
Mm-hmm.
Unfortunately, or fortunately, I guess, for the people who promote these events, white versus black sells in sports.
Mm-hmm.
So it was the Globetrotters against the white all-stars. And it was this competitive 18-game series. And, he started playing with the Globetrotters early April, and the draft turns around April 25th.
Mm-hmm.
And I remind people, my understanding, it was a smoke-filled room in the Chicago hotel. And Walter Brown stood up. He had Red Auerbach on his side, first-year coach with the Celtics.
Yeah.
And Walter Brown stood up and said, Boston takes Chuck Cooper, the All-American out of Duquesne University.
Right.
And he was challenged by another owner that said, you can't take him. He's a Negro. Now, Andy, I think probably used a stronger word than that at the time, but Walter Brown fired back immediately and said, I don't give a damn if he's striped, polka dot, or plaid. Boston takes Chuck Cooper. And the rest is history.
Wow.
The rest is
Yeah.
history.
That's amazing. And then Earl Lloyd was picked later on in the draft, right?
Yep,
And
yep.
then
The
Matt
ninth round.
Sweetwater
Yep.
Clifton came along from the Globetrotters, right? I guess.
Contract was purchased. Now
Yeah.
here's the story that a lot of people don't know, Andy.
Yeah.
So my father was under contract with the Globetrotters as well.
Mm.
But he had heard the way that Ab Saperstein treated some of his players.
Mm-hmm.
He wouldn't actually sign a contract, so he had a handshake agreement.
Mm-hmm.
So he, he was actually, there was no signed contract. So the Celtics didn't have to acquire his contract like they did in the case of Nat Sweetwater Clifton. But Clifton's contract was purchased. I'm sorry, by the Knicks.
Mm-hmm. By the Knicks.
So
That's
yeah, the
right.
Celtics didn't have to go through the same
Right.
uh, situation that the Knicks had to go through and purchase the contract. So
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
he was free to play. But Saperstein was upset about that. I mean, he challenged Walter Brown and he said, "Listen, before the draft, he said I guess he caught wind that they might draft my father, and he said if you draft Chuck Cooper, then we're not going to play any more of those barnstorming games." Where the Globetrotters would play the pregame or pregame or postgame after the NBA games to help draw fans in, so these owners could make their payroll in many cases.
Huh.
And Walter Brown said, "Hey, as far as I'm concerned, you're out of the garden now." So he believed in what he stood for, and that was to integrate the NBA.
Wow, good for him. So Jackie Robinson breaks the color barrier in baseball in 1947. The NBA has the color barrier broken in 1950. What took the NBA 3 years from baseball to accomplish that?
I think the Globetrotters played a big role.
Mm.
It was 1947 and 1948 that the Harlem Globetrotters played against the Minneapolis Lakers,
Mm-hmm.
who had Big George Mikan, who's one of the first dominant big men. I call him the Shaq of my dad's era, right?
Right.
But the Globetrotters beat them back-to-back games. Now, my father was playing at Duquesne. He wasn't a part of that, but Nat Clifton and Marcus Haynes and some of the other Globetrotter greats were a part of that game. But not only did they beat them back-to-back years, but those games drew over 17,000 fans.
Wow. Where did they play that?
Somewhere in Chicago. I don't know the exact location.
Amazing.
But,
wow.
Andy, I always say, if it makes dollars, it makes sense. And so once that happened, and you had guys like my father who were, he became only the second All-American in NCAA college basketball history.
Mm-hmm.
They saw the way he was dominating, the players in college basketball, and the way Earl Lloyd played at it. It was a small black college at the time, but they had an undefeated record. So there were enough things that happened that there's Sherman White up at LIU. Was putting up big numbers, never made it to the NBA. So there were enough players out there beginning to make some noise. And again, if it makes dollars, it makes sense.
Yeah, but do you think the NBA owners they obviously were a lot more hesitant because it took them 3 years from the baseball owners to get their head around Jackie Robinson being in Major League Baseball. And the Branch Rickey story sounds a lot like your Walter Brown story. I mean, if he can play, let's get him. Who cares?
For sure.
But you also had a quote that I read somewhere that you said that, quote, your dad was on a mission to make it to the NBA. Like he had the NBA in his sights, maybe as far back as Duquesne, or what do you think?
Yeah, that's a great question. I don't think I even gotten that one. So Pittsburgh, unfortunately, we don't have one now, but we had a team in the NBL, I think it was at the time, the Pittsburgh Ironmen. So my father's freshman year at Duquesne, they would scrimmage the Ironmen.
Really? Okay.
And he realized that he was outplaying most of those guys as a freshman at Duquesne. So that's when I really think he knew that he had the talent and ability to play at the professional level.
Yeah.
And then he was just somebody that, once he put his mind to something, he dedicated himself. So he kept himself in tremendous condition. I mean, I get envious when I see some of the pictures of my dad back in the day and his muscle tone and his
he was buff. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, he was like Karl Malone buff almost. I mean, yeah, definitely.
And this is before, the modern day weight training and the dieting that these guys and the nutrition that these guys do now. So he was a great ball player, but he was inspired by his oldest brother, who was 15 years older, and my Uncle Cornell, to this day, is the best athlete ever in our family. Ran against Jesse Owens. But he had that big brother to look up to. My uncle held the city high jump record for almost over 20 years. So he had a big brother that really inspired him to stay in shape,
Yeah.
and to take his game to the next level.
That's so interesting. Yeah, I didn't know that. I didn't see that in the research. So your dad gets drafted by Boston. Boston, obviously a town in the Northeast, but Boston's been known to be a tough town to play in as an African American. I mean, Bill Russell never held back, and he was very clear about how difficult his time in Boston was. I mean, violence, all kinds of stuff against him, and that was what 10 years, 15 years later than your dad, I guess. Um, it's well documented that your dad and his teammates got along really well. Bob Cousy famously has some great quotes about how he and your dad became friends. I guess they were roommates. There's all kinds of stories about Bob standing up for your dad in certain situations when they had to go to the South. But do you think your dad felt any racism at all within the NBA? Okay, and I'm just going back to when Magic had to leave very quickly and suddenly because of his HIV diagnosis. And there was a lot of misinformation and all kinds of stuff going around, as you remember. And there were players who came out and said, "I will not play against him. I don't care what facts come out or whatever scientific evidence. I just will not play." And David Stern stepped in. Of course, the Magic came to the '92 All-Star Game and, of course, Dream Team. Did your dad ever talk about that? Any racism in the league from playing with and against guys?
Oh, it was there. I
Yeah.
mean, you know, you're still talking about 1950 America.
Mm-hmm.
So this is pre Emmett Till. This is pre Civil Rights Act.
Yeah.
So it was legal to discriminate against people of color back
Mm.
when my father was running up and down the court.
Mm-hmm.
But the thing that he really benefited from that even the great Jackie Robinson and my father Earl Lloyd and Nat Clifton all gave Jackie a tremendous amount of credit
Mm-hmm.
for taking what he did to open up the door for them.
Mm-hmm.
But there were bench clearing brawls. My father, he was from Pittsburgh,
Yeah.
and he grew up where if you called him the N word,
Yeah.
that was a fighting word. I mean, you made a decision that you wanted to fight, and
Mm-hmm.
there were some bench clearing brawls.
Mm-hmm.
But again, the thing that really separated what I was getting ready to mention was the Boston Celtics gave my father so much um, love. Really, I mean, Red Auerbach and Walter Brown and the Celtics organization made sure that he was treated with dignity and respect.
Mm-hmm.
They weren't going to have anything else.
Mm-hmm.
And then when you think about the DNA of, and even today, of the Boston Celtics organization, they drafted my father, 13th overall pick, second round of 1950 draft.
Mm-hmm.
They started the first all-black starting five,
Mm-hmm.
and then they hired the first head coach, black head coach, and the great Bill Russell. So
Right.
the organization's track record of treating African Americans with brothers and brothers with dignity and respect is very clear. And he benefited and could not have went to a better franchise because of that.
Yeah, I got you. So I went to University of Massachusetts, right? I'm a New York guy, but I went to UMass and I became a Boston fan of every team except the Celtics because I grew
I'm
up
not
a
going to
Knicks.
hold that against you, Andy.
Yeah, I grew up a Knicks fan. Well, actually, I couldn't be a Bruins fan either because we were diehard Rangers fans. But I became a Red Sox fan, a Patriots fan. And the old Boston Garden, man, first of all, it was a tough place to play to begin with. Then I had to work in there. But the fans, they get a little riled up. They get juiced up and they start drinking like at 2:00 in the afternoon. I would imagine your dad caught some grief from the fans in Boston in his home arena,
Yeah.
right?
I'm sure he did, but I think it was probably more isolated than anything.
Yeah.
So here's something a lot of people don't realize: the Boston Celtics were a losing organization.
Mm.
They had not posted a winning record.
Yeah, we all think of all the this
Right,
27, 35 banners, whatever they got. Oh, I know it's 18.
So it was Bob Cousy's first year, my dad's rookie year, and Coach Auerbach's first year. They posted the first winning record in the team's history.
Right.
So I think there was a lot of respect for the effort.
Mm-hmm.
My father, I think was underappreciated with all the Pioneers and how great of players they were.
Mm-hmm.
Not only was he All-American out of Duquesne, but he actually was named to the All-Rookie team, was in contention for Rookie of the Year.
Yeah.
And that came with, these black players not being featured
Yeah.
in their
Yeah.
team's offenses early on. And the NBA was very, very slow to integrate.
Mm-hmm.
So I think for the most part, the Boston crowd really appreciated, first of all, how good he was and the effort. I always tell people, so they actually started the winning culture in Boston with the Celtics. And then once Bill Russell got there, that winning culture became a culture of championships.
Yeah, that's right. They were unstoppable. So let's talk about your dad, the player. I mean, your dad had skills that were obviously very appreciated by the Boston Celtics front office. He was a great rebounder, right? He was probably one of the early guys that really hit the boards hard, right? I mean, that was kind of what he hung his hat on. Do you feel like that was his kind of calling card? Was his rebounding? Because I don't really see too much written
He
about
was
his.
a great all-around player. He could have did whatever the franchise permitted him to do.
Right.
I got highlights I've been putting out, and I've put them out many years ago, but I actually, through modern technology, did some close-up action of him.
Okay.
He's crossing over. He's finger rolling.
Right.
He's right-handed. He's shooting a spinning left-hand hook shot. He's touch passing. He bodies George Mike, and we talked about his strength. He kind of knocks him 3 feet back.
Wow.
And we know he's a probably 260-pound, 6'10" center, if not taller, right?
I got to see some of those highlights. That's awesome. Yeah.
There's nothing that my dad couldn't do. He was more of a driver and a slasher. Back then, that wasn't the way the NBA. They were doing more perimeter, on the, playing kind of around the horn, and they had a position they put him in was called the corner man, where he was away from the basket. He really wasn't allowed to penetrate and go to the hoop and drive a lot, which would have been, more fitting for his style and more fitting for today's NBA. People talk a lot about all the threes in the NBA, but I still see a lot of guys going to the hoop with so much grace and athleticism. I still love the game.
Yeah.
Probably even more so today because of the skill level. But, there's nothing on the court that he couldn't do. So, but because the early African-American pioneers, and if you want to call them out again, Chuck Cooper, Earl Lloyd, Nat Clifton, they were brought into the league to rebound and play defense. And then sometimes even help protect, the white star players on the team. So,
interesting.
That was his role, and he did it. I mean, his rookie year, he was 11th in rebounding, not as a rookie, but overall. So he definitely excelled at that. Yeah. But that's one of the things that they allowed him to really be the best that they could be at. But if he'd have been the go-to guy, I mean, he had 3 other great scorers on his team, so he was kind of the 4th option. But if he'd have been the first option or the second option, he would have probably went to the Hall of Fame as a scorer, not just as somebody who contributed as a pioneer and a great player, just in general.
Amazing. And that's with sort of limited minutes, right? He didn't play a ton of minutes.
He didn't have limited minutes his first 2 years. So I really haven't told this story too many times.
All right, give it to me, man. I need it.
So, his first 2 years, he was one of the main guys and his best rebounder on the team, either best or second best on the team. He was known as a shutdown defender. He could watch anywhere from the other team's point to the center. Just a great all-around athlete. But going into his 3rd year, he was good friends with the other Celtic players. So they had informal conversations. He knew what they were making. So he realized that he would appreciate a raise, right?
Right, no kidding.
For his hard work and effort. And it's funny because it came out in the Celtics documentary through Tom Sanders, who said, like, Red had a thing where he only paid like 1 or 2 guys. And my dad didn't benefit from that hindsight, right?
Interesting.
But anyway, he held out a training camp.
Oh, I didn't know that.
He actually became the Celtics' first training camp holdout.
Is that in his second year?
Franchise.
For his second year?
I thought it was his 3rd year.
3rd year, okay.
I thought it was his 3rd year.
Interesting.
Yep, I thought it was his 3rd year.
I can't imagine holding out against Red Auerbach, quite honestly.
Well, here's the thing. It gets worse than that, Andy. Not only did he hold out, but when Red initially told him no, back then there wasn't, you didn't have a front office. You didn't have a general manager, president. It was the coach and the owner.
Owner, right.
So he went to Walter Brown. He wouldn't take no for an answer. And Walter Brown gave him, in hindsight, he said it was a nominal raise. It probably wasn't worth the stance, because after that he was in Red's doghouse.
Yeah, yeah. And
And
then he
that's
got
when you mentioned limited minutes. That's when his
right.
limits became limited, and he eventually asked for a trade. And they gave him one. They sent him to the worst franchise in the league, right? The
Right.
St. Louis Hawks, Milwaukee Hawks at the time.
Yeah.
And he went there and became one of their top scorers. But unfortunately, there were some racial incidents that I won't get into that happened. He got frustrated with the league and eventually started touring with Marcus Haynes, his former Globetrotter teammate, who had a team similar to the Globetrotters called the Harlem Magicians, right?
Yeah.
And got into a car accident, fell in love with my mother, and then he was out. But the one thing he did tell me, Andy, I'll give you this too. He said if he would have known that the great Bill Russell was on his way, he wouldn't ask for that raise. He would stay with the Celtics and been a part of some of those championship teams.
It was tough to know that, though. You mentioned Bill Russell, and then you also just talked about your dad's skill set. And Bill Russell said that your dad was, quote, ahead of his time in terms of his overall game, his skill set. So, I wish I had seen him play. I mean, I see these grainy black and white videos, it's hard to appreciate, but you never saw him play either, right? So
I didn't. I did not see him play. And matter of fact, I got to call out the great late Zelda Spoelstra, who worked for the NBA.
Oh, I love Zelda.
Did you know Zelda?
Oh, sure, yeah.
It was actually, we just celebrated the 75th year anniversary of the Pioneers breaking the barrier.
Yeah.
But on the 50th anniversary, we were in New York, and they had a couple events, and we were leaving a reception. And I told Zelda, I said, you know what? I never saw my dad play. I never saw a highlight or anything. Duquesne University had a fire in their records department, so they didn't have anything. Yeah. So Zelda said, let me see what I can do. I think I can change that. And probably within a month, I got a VHS videotape, and I saw highlights of my father play for the first time. And this is the thing that got me. She said,
"How beautiful is that story?"
Oh, wow. Andy, and the story gets better though, because she said, we didn't have a lot of time to pull, the highlights, and I said, wow, they didn't have a lot of time, but that's when they got the spinning left-handed hook, they got the finger roll, they got the crossover. So yeah, he could play. I wish I would have got a chance to see him play, but I was born relatively late in life. But he got a chance to see me play. I just hope I didn't disappoint him too much.
He did. Okay. So your dad passed away in 1984, right? He was only 57.
57.
How old were you then when your dad passed?
I was 21.
Oh my goodness! So he got to see you play. That's good, and you had some time with him. So that's
I had some time with him. Matter of fact, that's when I first started, doing my community work. When I lost my father, I was, blessed with a great family situation, great father, great mother.
Yeah.
And I said, what can I do to honor my father? And I said, you know what? Let me play his legacy forward. And we were having a big gang problem in Pittsburgh at the time, so we ended up having to take back a beautiful basketball court that he was one of the catalysts in having that whole park built for some inner city kids. And we took that back and moved it to an after school program, and been giving back in his name ever since. So that was my way to honor my father for losing him so young.
Well, that's beautiful. And the last thing I want to talk about really was his legacy. I mean, your dad only played 5 years in the NBA, but his legacy, obviously, first African-American drafted, but he leaves a long shadow. I mean, your dad, everything in Pittsburgh that he did, he went back, got his master's in social work. He did a lot of community service in Pittsburgh, right? He was the director of Parks and Rec. I think the first African-American.
First one.
Amazing. And the court in Duquesne is named after him.
The building, the whole building, Cooper Fieldhouse.
Oh, the whole building.
The whole building.
Even
Matter of fact, and there are 2 buildings on campus.
I didn't know that.
Cooper Fieldhouse and then the Chuck Cooper building. If you go to a Pittsburgh Penguin game, caddy corner to the Mario Lemieux statue is the Chuck Cooper building. So
you got to show me that next time I'm in Pittsburgh.
I
will be in Pittsburgh actually, so I will call you. I'm coming to Pittsburgh to see another Springsteen show. So I will be there
look forward to it.
In May some point. But then, did you found the foundation, the Chuck Cooper Foundation? Was that something you did?
I did. And one of the other firsts that we didn't mention was Pittsburgh National Bank now it's PNC Bank.
Mm-hmm.
He was their first black executive, and being at the city and being at the bank, all
Mm-hmm.
those positions, came with great challenges.
Sure, I
Right? He
bet.
had and I tell people all the time, when you're a trailblazer, when you think about blazing the trail, it's going to cause wounds and leave scars.
Mm-hmm.
So, that's why I always take my hat off and pay homage to all those pioneers, whether it's in sports, business, government, politics, whatever, who've opened up doors. But
Yeah.
PNC Bank actually cut our first check for us to found the Chuck Cooper Foundation back in 2011.
Wow.
And we were looking at, hey, what can we do? And we said, hey, my father got his master's degree after he left after he left the NBA. So we started giving graduate level scholarships to people of color, and I started this foundation from scratch. I remember getting laid off from my pharmaceutical job, and my wife said, "Oh, you're going to go apply to the competitor, right?" And I said, "No, I think I'm gonna burn our 401k and start a foundation." And that's what I did.
Boy.
When I talk to young people, Andy, I say I don't recommend. Probably not the best move. That'd be for your retirement, but
Right.
probably not the best business move. But I think without the foundation, without keeping my father's name and legacy and the lights, giving back, to some of that goodwill that comes along with that, just slowly start opening up doors that led to the two buildings at Duquesne, led to PNC Bank being one of our big supporters, and we get so much corporate support in Pittsburgh. It led to the Hall of Fame induction. It led to our relationship with the NBA, and I can't thank the NBA and the NBA Players Association enough for what they did this year, honoring the pioneers. And
Yeah, that was beautiful.
sure that every February 1st, the pioneers will be recognized through Pioneers Day and the NBA Chuck Cooper or Lloyd Nat Sweetwater Clifton Pioneers Classic. I can't thank him enough. But
that's I didn't realize that. Maybe I wasn't paying attention enough at the awards thing. But every February 1st, there's going to be
annual.
That's fantastic.
Annual. And that, honestly, that's what I kind of set out to do.
Yeah.
So now that we've accomplished that, I really want to focus my time on growing the foundation, growing our impact, growing our footprint. We've done some programming in Boston along with the Celtics, and one of my two-time scholarship recipients now is the director of the Moonshot Museum in Pittsburgh. So we did a nice show, a nice presentation with some kids in Boston who really appreciated that STEM learning opportunity. So we're just looking to continue to grow and expand the foundation.
Yeah, I loved your mission statement on the front page of your website for the Chuck Cooper Foundation. The mission is honor, inspire, and empower. Honor, inspire, and empower. I love that. Hey, Chuck, last thing, man, I want to plug a little bit your gala coming up, right, on April 15th. So This is going to air before that, so maybe it'll help a little bit. 100-year Centennial. I guess your dad was born in 1926, so it'll be the 100-year anniversary of his birth. What do you got going on that day? Because, I would love to be there, but people who can be there on April 15th, what do you got happening?
We'd love to have you. We'd love to have you. So, we're going to celebrate 100 years of his life and legacy. And normally we traditionally do a luncheon every year. It's kind of our only true fundraising event of the year. And this year it's going to be a gala. We're going to recognize the mayor of Pittsburgh, A. Gainey, former mayor of Pittsburgh, who became Pittsburgh's first black mayor. We're going to recognize the McConnell family. Those in the NBA know the name T.J. McConnell.
Sure.
Well, his family, his granddad and his dad, his aunt Susie. Susie was an Olympian. They are some of the most respected and accomplished contributors to basketball in Western Pennsylvania basketball's history. So we're going to honor the McConnell family. We're going to honor some of those corporate sponsors like UPMC and UPMC Health Plan, Buchanan Ingersoll Rooney, a law firm that been with us since our inception. So we're going to honor some partners, and just really going to be a fun night. We're going to tell Chuck Cooper stories. We're going to show some of those NBA videos so people can see, the impact of my father and how he's now being honored and appreciated through the league. But it's going to be a great day in Pittsburgh. We're going to honor some young people. We're going to award some scholarships. So it's just going to be a tremendous night, and I really do hope you could join us.
Oh, I wish I could.
Anybody that wants to donate or support the Chuck Cooper Foundation, if they go to chuckcooperfoundation.org, chuckcooperfoundation.org, there's a donate button. You can sponsor the gala. We would love for anybody to come and be a part of this celebration of my father's life.
That's
And I can't
fabulous.
thank, all those who really helped us push the wagon up the hill. And there's so many that I could name right now, Andy, but
Mm.
there's so many people that wouldn't give up, that wanted to make sure that my father's story would never be forgotten. And we're going to celebrate that
Yeah.
on April 15th.
Well, I love you're so inspiring, Chuck. I mean, the way you excuse me, carry on your dad's legacy. You won't let the world forget, and the world will never forget, especially sports world, basketball world. But keep it going, man. Whatever we can do here at Legends of Sport, we're here for you. Like I said, this is going to come out so we can promote, and we'll put the foundation's website out there and social media and all that stuff.
Thank you. And
So,
I just want to take another quick second just to thank you for your contributions,
oh,
with
thank
the
you, man.
photography and the NBA and
Thank you.
bringing stories like Kobe's Delight and all that you've done
Yeah.
to contribute to, in my humble opinion, the greatest game in the world and beyond. So thank you, sir, for all that you've done too.
Thank you, my friend. I appreciate it. We're now, it's so funny because when we saw each other, I'd seen you before, of course, in 2019, but we never really talked. And I went right to you at the end of that awards thing because I wanted to meet you and I wanted to really acknowledge what your dad accomplished in the 75th anniversary. I mean, and his 100th year of his birth. I mean, all this coming at the same time. It's really wonderful. And I can't thank you enough, Chuck, for coming on the Legends of Sport podcast. And we'll be there for you, man, if we can help in any way. So
Thank
let me
you.
know.
You glad you came up to me. You got a friend for life now, Andy.
There we go. I'll see you in Pittsburgh. I'll see you in Pittsburgh.
I look forward to it. You take
Thanks,
good care.
Chuck. Thank
Okay.
you.
All right. Peace.
All right, man. I really enjoyed this conversation with Chuck Cooper III about his father's career and legacy. Please follow Chuck on Instagram at 11 Chuck Cooper. That's at 11 Chuck Cooper. And check out the website, chuckcooperfoundation.org, for info about the organization and their Centennial Gala coming up on April 15th. Thanks to our editors, Sean Gosser and Addison Shao. And thanks, everyone, for joining us for this episode of the podcast. You know how much we love our loyal followers. Please tell all your friends to subscribe to our YouTube channel, Legends of Sport, and our Instagram at Legends of Sport, and my photography can be found on Instagram at ADB Photo Inc. Please check out the discount link in our social media to our good friends at Muggsy. We love Muggsy's clothes, and so will you. And the discount link to our friends at You Should, the best way you should protect your skin for work, play, and everyday life. Thanks again, folks, for joining us this week. We'll be back next week for another great episode of the Legends of Sport podcast.